Breaking right now, Lady Colin Campbell has raised concerns over the treatment of Prince Archie in a bombshell post on X. She writes, going off what Professor Balthrop, one of the leading paediatricians in the country, told me in 1995 about the link between children's responsive to direction from authority figures and child abuse, I have to say I found little Archie's pathetic response to Meghan on her Instagram posting deeply chilling. And Lady C joins me now to discuss this further. So, Lady C, you're basing this off the post that Meghan put on her Instagram feed earlier this week with Archie in the garden. What did you see?
I was absolutely horrified, Dan. I was totally horrified. In 1995, Professor Balthrop told me, he said, I was seeing him because actually somebody had reported me to social services for being a cruel and negligent mother. And I was caught up in a huge case in the family courts for several months in 1995, before, of course, I was absolved of whatever, all accusations. But I had to take my children to Professor Balthrop, who was the leading expert in the field at that time, at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital it was, and he was going to be investigating. And of course, you know my boys, so you know they're very spirited and always were.
Lovely boys.
And I couldn't, I was trying to get them to behave themselves as they were caterwauling all about the place, enjoying themselves. And he saw that I was, and he said, Lady Colin, I wouldn't worry if I were you, or words to this effect. He said, because your children are too badly behaved to have been abused. Then he said to me, and he put it slightly differently, but then he explained to me the children who are being abused by their parents are very docile, over eager to please, he said, I would have concerns about your children if they were sitting down quietly or being too responsive to what you ask them to do. And that's what, when I saw that clip, and she has been stupid enough and brazen enough and unaware enough to post it without understanding that what she's telling us is that child is basically terrified of her. He's overeager. He's so careful of not antagonizing her. I mean, no child who, of what Professor Balthrop told me, who is not being abused would have, only if you want me to. I mean, excuse me. I mean, the child would grab the hose, or will you just hand the child the hose? It's so obvious that she has that child in a vice-like grip, and it's, if they were a husband and wife team, there are laws now about coercive control. There are no laws about coercive control with children. But that, to me, is the absolute embodiment of coercive control. I was beyond horrified. I thought this child is in serious trouble and is going to remain in serious trouble. And she doesn't understand that broadcasting to the world that her child would actually come up with only if you want me to is actually a sign of abusiveness. I can't think of any other interpretation or explanation. And I say this as the mother of two children and any parent who has a child who is not under such rigid control would have to be horrified at it. I mean, well, you've got a niece. I mean, how wouldn't you be horrified if your niece said something
Mm.
like that to your
Well, and I
sister?
think what's been so interesting for me, Lady C, is seeing the Archie PR campaign over the Invictus Games, desperately trying to prove that Meghan is good with children, and yet every video or picture they release proves quite the opposite. So we had this latest release where Meghan is using these children now as props and even putting out a video of her and Harry with these children. Now, let's be honest, Harry is a natural with children, right?
Good with you.
He's good with kids. He always has been, and I give him credit where credit is due. But Meghan is so uncomfortable around children. And Lady C, I know you have many sources on this, as do I. I was the first to report that Meghan had gone through numerous nannies in just 6 weeks, and she's not hands-on at all with her children.
Thank God. Thank God. I mean, can you imagine having a hands-on mother like that, who has made it so clear to her 5-year-old that if he doesn't do exactly as she wants, when she wants, and how she wants, I mean, it's then I can't exaggerate enough. And also, my mother was also a dominatrix, and my mother was also very controlling. And I remember when I was about 4 or 5 years old, maybe 6, we were at the luncheon table, Mummy, my brother, my younger sister, and I, and the butler came in and was serving us and whatever. And I said something, and she just gave me a look. And Phoebe, my younger sister, then ratified it. And she said, having given me a look, and I knew I was to shut up and did, she gave Phoebe a look, and Phoebe didn't. And she said, "Child, which bit of don't contradict me, don't you understand?" And my mother was a monster. There are no two ways about it. I even wrote a book on what a monster she was, called Daughter of Narcissus. And so there are bells ringing loud and clear, but I'm not going off my personal experience. I'm going off what Professor Balthrop told me about Archie's response. And then Meghan, well, I think her brother Tom said that she shouldn't be left around children or animals. I think he wrote that before the marriage, didn't he?
Indeed. And all of those warnings were ignored. And more fool the people who ignored them, most notably Prince Harry, of course. But what we see from Prince Harry this week, Lady C, is this embarrassing attempt to try and convince the world everything's fine, nothing to see here, I'm still completely happy. And he's given this interview to Us Weekly. Now, number one, how degrading. I mean, this is a guy in the line of succession who's now pimping himself out like a D-list celebrity to trashy weekly magazines that very few people even read anymore. There's the headline. Prince Harry shares special memory with Meghan Markle from Prince Archie pregnancy. And when you dive into the story, it says, Prince Harry is looking back on a sweet memory with Meghan Markle when she was pregnant with their first child, Archie. Every Invictus Games creates incredible experiences and holds special memories for everyone involved, the Duke of Sussex exclusively told Us Weekly during the semi-final volleyball game between Team UK and Team Nigeria at the Invictus Games. My wife has been part of this community since shortly after the Orlando Games in 2016 and has loved every minute of it. For this year's Games, Meghan was by Harry's side for a few events in Vancouver before she returned home. While Meghan couldn't be present for the entirety of the game, she showed her support for her husband via her newly launched social media page. Harry told us the Instagram shout-out was very sweet and much appreciated. Your take on this PR spin of all PR spin?
Well, first of all, Dan, I can't remember, but I'm sure you know the name of the guy who now heads US Weekly. or Us Weekly rather.
Yeah,
who
he
were
used Dan, he used to be the editor of People, and effectively he's moved on over to Us Weekly and turned that magazine now into a propaganda tool for Harry and Meghan. Dan Wakeford.
Yeah, so he's one of Meghan and Harry's assassins or gunmen or hitmen or however you want to put it, or certainly propagandists. And it was bad enough when it was People, but now that it's Us Weekly, I mean, it's so déclassé. And I think you're being very generous in saying that they are now D-list. I think they're sort of hovering beyond F.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. People even on the D-list don't do interviews with Us Weekly anymore, do they?
No.
Good
but
point.
Also, they're proving they have a few things to prove and to clean up, First of all, their marriage is happy. Secondly, Meghan was pregnant with Archie. Let's not forget, she was pregnant with Archie. Archie, who he's proven himself to be the most wonderfully intelligent and wonderfully forward-thinking child. His first word was crocodile, and he was a great prenatal diver who managed to dive between Meghan's knees at Birkenhead. So maybe Tom Daley had something to do with that pregnancy. But so there are all sorts of they're trying to put out fires in all sorts of directions, but it's almost as if the fires are raging in the real world and they're putting out fires in somebody's backyard that's 600 miles away, because nobody gives a toss what Us Weekly has to say. So I think that would be my reading of it. But also, let's remember that guy. I can never remember his name.
Dan Wakeford, yeah.
He needs content,
yes.
And they're providing him with content. But also, you have to ask yourself, what a move downwards for him. Did he get an increased salary, or was his day finished and he was moved downwards? And it's a natural regression as opposed to progression.
Well, yeah, he was actually out of work. I know what happened here because he'd left People magazine to go and launch this new website called The Messenger. It was a massive flop. So he was desperate, absolutely desperate, needed to take a job. And his big pitch, of course, to the owners of Us Weekly is, if you hire me, you'll get all of this access to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But we know Harry didn't actually say those words. It's just all PR spin written on an email, and it's not a proper interview. So I find the whole thing embarrassing, but it's actually far, far more embarrassing for Prince Harry that he now has to lower himself as, an heir to the British throne. He has to lower himself to giving some sort of awful PR spin interview to Us Weekly, trying to convince us that everything is okay in the marriage when we know full well that it is not. Lady C, another thing I wanted to ask you about from over the course of the week is the fact that Meghan is now embroiled in multiple copycat scandals in regards to both With Love Meghan, obviously Pamela Anderson show, but also her brand as ever. And there's this fascinating interview with the owner of a very posh, successful brand called Flamingo Estate. And this guy is a gay Australian guy who Meghan was friends with. And he's given an interview to the Daily Mail, effectively admitting that Meghan has copied aspects of his brand, but he claims to be okay about that. What's so dodgy about this, though, Lady C, is that Puck revealed that in 2022, there are actually multiple meetings between the Flamingo Estate and Meghan because she wanted to buy the business, or at least come on board as a partner. And they report that the negotiations went as far as Meghan being given access to all of the enterprise's relevant financial information, providing her with what an insider described as an intimate knowledge of the business. And all of a sudden, as ever, now seems to bear a very striking similarity to Flamingo Estate.
Well, she culled, didn't she? Meghan has never had an original idea in her life, except, and even that isn't original. I was going to say, except how to hook a man. But I mean, those are the oldest tricks in the book. And, so she is totally, she devours, she steals ideas. She doesn't have an original bone in her body. She looks at something and says, "Oh, I'll take that." And then she acts as if it's her own, when of course it's not. And let's not forget that it's not only Pamela Anderson that she has culled from. It's Emma Barth as well. The Marchioness of Bath, who does her own YouTube channel. And I mean, Emma Barth is everything Meghan would like to be and isn't. She's a proud, confident woman of colour. Her father is a Nigerian billionaire, so she's genuinely 50% Nigerian as opposed to Meghan's 43%. Her mother is a beautiful English socialite, and she's married to the present Marquis of Bath, Sulin, who has... They own one of the most beautiful houses in the country, Longleat. But Emma has for some time been doing her own Emma's Kitchen, I think it's called. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. And Meghan has stolen from her not only the ideas, but even the dresses, because Emma is very good looking and very stylish and very chic and very glam. And Meghan is the poor man's Marchioness of Bath with things ill-fitting, etc. So she's busy stealing left, right, and centre. But I mean, these people are all usually likable. People watch them because they're likable. And they have something interesting to convey, and people want to be a part of them and their world. Who wants to be a part of Meghan and Meghan's world? I mean, there's nothing likable about Meghan. So I don't see how all this theft is going to actually result in anything positive, but you never know. It might have limited success initially, but I don't think it's going to have long-term success. And I understand that Netflix doesn't expect it to be a success because there have been screenings of it that had dire results. So I just say that for what it's worth.
Wow. And remember as well, we know that there's been all of this desperate reshooting going on, re-editing. And it's a very difficult job for the producers, Lady C, who are like, oh goodness, we've made this show, and now Meghan wants the show to be about how much she cares for California, which was never what the show was originally about. I mean, it's going to be a mess, isn't it?
Well, it's also very opportunistic. I mean, you are a professional and I'm a professional. And one of the very first rules of anything that is supposed to stand the test of time is it cannot be too contemporary or contemporaneous. Because if it's set too rigidly in a particular time, it very quickly gets dated. So by bringing in all of this, first of all, it's a mistake in terms of longevity. Because if people are going to look at a repeat of that show in 2 years or 6 months or 5 years, it's going to be very dated because the whole California Files would have been history, so to speak. So it's not even conceptually sound. But let's see what happens, because I understand that her demands at Netflix were not were not exactly greeted with open arms. Let's put it that way. And in fact, I think I told you, Dan, my information was that Meghan had pitched something to the board of the Oscars, and
Mm.
and that Netflix is the one that kiboshed the idea and said no when Meghan wanted footage of her, and Netflix refused to provide the footage. And at the time, I hesitated going public with it. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, because I said it would give her enough time to maybe create a rebuttal and somehow wangle her way back into the Oscars. So let's see what happens, because the Oscars are on Sunday evening and this is only Thursday. But my understanding is that Netflix is not very much more enamored of her than William Morris Endeavour. So,
No, indeed.
Meghan had.
And if there was
Sorry.
any year to get an invite to the Oscars for her, it was this year. She needs it. She's launching her show. And I don't think she's going to be there. Lady C, I just wanted to play you an interview that started to go viral again, because it's from Meghan Markle a number of years ago on a lowbrow show called Yahoo Style, when she was promoting the TIG. And folk is saying how she's very much now gone full circle.
Well, boomerang. She's gone full circle.
She's back. She's back.
But also, Dan, I don't think people understand what the TIG was and what it was about. It was Meghan's concerted attempt to up her profile, expand her circle, elevate her reputation, and either create the opportunity where she would become a bigger star, or she would meet a rich man who she would marry. And
oh, yes. And remember, Lady C, get lots and lots and lots and lots of free things, free trips, free dinners, free clothes.
Yeah. But I mean, the TIG never made a great deal of money. It was transactional. It was, I'll give you publicity if you will give me a product. And she was clever because she befriended one or two people in the early days, people like Serena Williams. That's the first time that she really played the color card. She played it with Serena Williams. And but then she was very careful to avoid playing it thereafter. But she definitely did play it with Serena Williams. And it was a vehicle. And she was also paying PR people to help her to promote it. All Meghan's earnings, people say she was worth $5 million when she entered the royal family. She wasn't. She didn't even own a house. She didn't own a proper picture. She didn't own anything of any consequence. What she had done was she'd taken all her earnings, plowed them back into promoting herself and the TIG so that she would become a bigger star. It paid off very well because she ended up marrying Harry. So there was nothing flawed about that plan. The flaw was when she married Harry, she didn't understand that she needed to continue to pretend to be the nice person and the enthusiastic person and the positive person that she had been faking on her trajectory upwards. And she thought, oh, well, I've now arrived. I can just be myself and I can show people what I really am, which is a dominating bitch. And he's discovered that most people don't like a dominating bitch. And I mean, even Harry, certainly who's much of a subservient a lot of the times, he doesn't like it all the time. No. And as we have seen with Archie, he's terrified of it.
Yeah, indeed. Poor soul, the poor little soul.
To understand why this story is gaining attention, we need to recognize that Meghan Markle has remained a highly discussed and often controversial figure, with commentary about her personal life and parenting frequently becoming the subject of intense media focus, despite the limited public information available. At the center of this video are claims made by Lady Colin Campbell, who reportedly describes Meghan's parenting in strong terms and suggests that Archie could face issues in the future. But it is important to clarify that these statements reflect personal opinions and interpretations rather than confirmed facts about the child's well-being. What stands out immediately is the use of phrases like serious trouble and chilling parenting, which are highly emotional and designed to provoke concern, even though they are not supported by concrete evidence, highlighting how powerful language can shape perception and amplify a narrative. In reality, very little is publicly known about Archie's day-to-day life, as Harry and Meghan have consistently chosen to keep their children out of the spotlight, which means that any strong claims about his situation are largely speculative and not based on verified information. As expected, reactions to this kind of story are mixed, with some viewers taking the criticism seriously and others pushing back, pointing out that it is unfair to make judgments about a child or parenting style without direct knowledge, reflecting the broader divide in public opinion surrounding Meghan Markle. This situation also highlights a larger trend in online media, where commentary and opinion are often presented in a dramatic way to attract attention, especially when it involves well-known public figures, even if the underlying claims are not supported by solid evidence. It's also worth considering the ethical side of stories like this, because discussing children in such a speculative and critical way raises questions about privacy and fairness, particularly when those children are not public figures themselves and have no control over how they are portrayed. In the end, while the headline may sound alarming, the claims about Archie being in serious trouble appear to be based on opinion rather than fact, reminding us to approach such content with caution and to distinguish between commentary and verified information. What do you think about this situation, and do you believe these kinds of stories go too far when discussing private family matters? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more updates.